So, everybody, I want to introduce Ur Sullivision. So I met Ur as Eric Schefter. Before I left Erie to go to school, Eric wrote me a letter. I think it was an assignment.
Yeah, right.
You had to do it. But basically, I got a letter from Eric before I went to school at New York University to go to film and TV school. And just saying, hey, just introducing myself, and when you come to New York to go to school, look me up. And so it turned out that actually not only have we had a long friendship, but a long collaboration, years of working together. Though unfortunately Eric moved to Berlin. I'm very happy for him. And so it's a rare opportunity to have him back here. And so Eric's going to tell you about the work that he's doing that really anticipated a lot of what the artists who are here at Feed doing now, but with way different technology back in the day.
Well, I'll start by saying thank you to Benton and to Feed Media Arts Center because, I can't imagine a cooler place in the world to be for video and sound. So I'm showing I'm going to show a few videos tonight, talk a little bit about how they were done. The videos I'm showing were with a group. It was a duo, a synthesist named Charles Cohen, who played a Buchla music easel, which is, he played a number of Buchla instruments. These were really rare instruments that were, now I guess they're being produced again, but the music easel, Charles had played since the mid-70s. He was like a virtuoso, and it was like a suitcase, a blue suitcase that he'd open up, and it just had all these colored chords, and he would patch it, analog synth, and make incredible sounds. And I was working a lot with video feedback, which is the basis of what you're seeing behind. This is not stuff I did with Charles, but this is later. But I was working, basically taking a video camera, feeding it into a monitor, putting it through the computer, processing it through a program called Live, which would let me assign presets to the keys in the keyboard, so I could change the colors or change the motion. And then spitting it back out to the monitor, and splitting it so it went to the audience as well, so you had a feedback loop. And I'm going to show you a piece that we did live that first, and that's an Amiga piece, and it's me and Charles, basically a piece that we developed for our live show. So we had a live show, we had maybe 5 or 6 pieces that we did, and that would have been from 1991 to 95, I guess.
So what you're going to show us is made entirely live?
This is a studio version, but yes, this would have been played live.
right.
So that was done entirely with a setup where we had, Charles had his Buchla, sometimes two, and I had the Amiga computer, a monitor, a video camera aimed into that monitor, turned sideways, and that was running in a loop through the monitor into the computer, being processed in the computer. I was banging away on the keyboard like it was a piano, to change the colors, to change the motion. One other aspect to that was very analog was that a lot of the motion in this particular piece, when it starts to really move, that's just my finger sort of moving there to get the wave going. I manipulated the focus to get different kinds of textures. So the focus of the camera would actually change the texture, so you could get different kinds of imagery out of that. And also at the end, I was actually literally putting my hand in front of the camera to get to slowly fade out the feedback and create these little patches. So it was all very analog what we did, and it was all interacting between, I mean, we kind of wanted it to be like a band, and that was our thing. So that said, we did residencies, 4 residencies at a place called the Experimental Television Center in Amiga, New York, and there we got to play with a lot of analog video synthesis and video manipulation hardware, and Charles could interface his synths into this analog video synthesizers and also other things, and he could manipulate the video himself. This was not our studio, this was the Experimental Television Center, and this is not our live setup, but the next 2 pieces I'll show are from these studio residencies.
Hello. This tape is to be viewed in the year 2020. Eric will bring it to me in the old age home. We'll take it down to the rec room and we'll get a big yuck. Please stand by, thank you. That's our basic feedback camera and screen sitting off in the corner. There's the Ensoniq Mirage. Now we're coming up to the audio table, mixer, Amiga. This is Charles's workstation. On the left, we have a Buchla 200 series modular electronic music analog synthesizer. In the center is a black rack with a Yamaha TX-802 FM synthesizer and then some effects down below, and the Buchla Lightning receiver up top. That's the Buchla transmitter wand sitting on top. This is the Buchla Thunder, which is a tactile MIDI controller. It has 24 pads that respond to pressure, location, and impact velocity. That is the main video control area of the Experimental Television Center. Coming into the center, we have the various analog voltage-controlled oscillators and amplifiers, inverters, sequencer.
Call that a meso wires.
It's all patchable with mini plugs. And that is the infamous matrix comprised of the largest cherry switch matrix I've ever seen in my life. Has some 23 ins and outs. Lots of crosstalk. 30. The Jones colorizer. It's not my department, I can't tell you what it does.
It colorizes things.
When you're jonesing for color.
Above it is...
Up above is more voltage controlled oscillators, inverters, voltage processors, etc. But our concept here is we take the voltage controlled Buchla analog audio and we interface it with the voltage controlled analog video stuff, and it works wonderfully.
This is the 8-channel sequencer.
That's the 8-channel sequencer,
That's a wonder.
video sequencer, waveform monitor, DeX, another Amiga, frame grabber, narrator, boring.
That was the experimental television center's setup that we used. Charles interfaced with the various video devices. In particular, and I'm just going to go through a list of stuff that they had there that what I remember. So there was something called the Pake Rest or Control Unit, which was we called it the wobulator. And you'll see it in all the pieces. In fact, this shape is actually generated by it. It was well, as far as I understood it, it was like a high-res black and white monitor that had magnets that were manipulated through control voltages, and you could do wild shit with it. It was really wonderful. So I'll just show. This is one of the pieces we did in our residency. It is, I think it's got one or two edits in it, because we'd often just like play for an hour or 2 or 5, and then kind of gather the material that was, because in the studio, and gather the material that we liked. That's one of the pieces where it's clear is that Charles's voltage controlled synthesizer plus the MIDI could really change the video pattern. I'm going to show just one more piece that is also done there. I think it was done about 2 years before this piece. It was done during the Gulf War, 1991, Operation Desert Shield.
Life goes on, cancel the Super Bowl. Life goes on, cancel the Super Bowl. Cancel the Super Bowl. Life goes on, 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 cancel Square and tap. Square and cancel the Super Bowl.
The video was captured over a period of almost a day. Charles had sampled some of Bush's speech. There were a couple of animations that were on an Amiga of Bush's face. That was a rescan that we created a icon from, and then there was Bush doing this, which he could with his synth change the rhythm or bring it in and out visually. And then we had a television, and that was what was on TV in the beginning of the war, hockey ads, and it was quite amazing, actually, that moment of just disconnect.
I love the improvised work that you and Charles did, especially the experimental TV center stuff that you would cut down.
Yeah.
But for me, what was amazing about the Luminists is that these were actually like pieces, right? That they would perform over and over again. And they had like a whole score, audio-visual score. I was lucky enough to sit in on a rehearsal, and so they would speak about the shapes in either anthropomorphic or other real world terms sometimes. Here's something I remember, tell me if I got it wrong. So Eric, again, he's just making this with feedback, pointing a camera at a screen and then putting it through a very early type of video computer to digitize it real time and change the imagery. And so you would do things like fold the image or make colors burst from the center or whatever. But sometimes the language would be so I'm going to make a paper airplane, and then when the paper airplane unfolds, then it's going to start spewing these like colorful blobs. You know, I actually think you used the term ejaculating these blobs.
That was the
And
ejaculator. Yeah.
The ejaculator, and then so that was a cue for Charles to hit things. And so it was really pretty amazing for me and inspirational to see Eric as an artist who would like had these compositions and could actually perform them, because for anybody who's played with video feedback, you might know it's hard to get the same thing twice, right? But this guy here would get it show after show after show because his duo depended upon, you know, hitting cues, depended upon Eric hitting his looks.
Yeah,
So-
when I said it was improvised, it was like a structured improv. It wasn't totally
Correct.
nuts, you know. We had cues that we hit, and sometimes it was from Charles would initiate it, sometimes I would, and we also knew the sections, and I guess in the end, for the live show, maybe 5 longer pieces. I'm not sure anymore, actually, but I only have three so far. But we have some tapes upstairs, which I hope I can see.
We're going to hopefully digitize some more works that Eric brought here to Erie from Berlin, from VHS, High 8,
Betamax.
and Betamax, Beta 1. I mean, I guess I'll also just say that, you know, now we can do some of these things, so you'll see a performance later from Colin Bonner, aka Jet Set, using contemporary versions of this technology. But there weren't no laptops when Eric started doing this stuff. It was a whole lot of gear. So, any other questions? Oh, yes. What's your question, Sean?
So like I make music, and there's times where like I'm just making music and playing music for fun, and there's other times where it's like I have intentions to make a project. So I was wondering if like in your video editing, like what inspired you, I guess, or like what were your intentions when you like wanted to make that video?
Okay, well that's a hard question to answer, because a lot of what we did was experimenting with different possibilities to connect the music and the video. Sometimes the inspiration would be a sound that Charles had, or a rhythm, or sometimes it would be an image that I showed him, and then he would come up. So we would work that way often, that maybe one of us worked up some ideas, showed it to the other, and then we would expand on that together.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you ever thought about doing this kind of expression with live music, as far as like a punk show, bands and stuff like that as a background?
My main interest was to have a interaction with the musician, or whatever musician I was working with. So when it becomes a background, for me it became less interesting.
Right.
Yeah. So it was really like we had equal footing on stage. We sat together and we worked together, and people saw it. And mostly they saw the monitors, because projectors were very expensive and hard to get. But I've done a bit of that. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it. Eric Schefter, Ur Sullivision. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We'll be back soon.